When a baby suddenly appears in the house, we cats sometimes start acting very strange. At least that's how it looks to humans. But it's a lot more complicated than simple jealousy or those sudden parental instincts humans love to invent for us. Because the moment a tiny new human shows up, the entire atmosphere of the house changes, and we notice it much earlier than you do. Some of us suddenly start spending hours next to the baby's crib, climbing into it, or even lying pressed up against the baby like it's our own kitten. Some cats start licking the baby's head with alarming dedication, as if we genuinely believe we've been assigned grooming duties. Others stare at their humans like they want to ask, "Where exactly did you get this thing? And is it still possible to quietly return it?" Some of us start waking the parents up at night before the baby even begins to cry. And some cats suddenly seem to protest the new order in the house, becoming irritable, marking territory, having strange bursts of aggression, or very dramatically doing things they somehow never did before. And all of this can look adorable, confusing, funny, or sometimes even a little disturbing, until you start understanding what's actually happening inside a cat's head. The first thing that really surprises people after bringing a baby home is how strangely some cats start reacting to infants. And sometimes this doesn't just happen with female cats, who humans at least expect to have some kind of maternal instincts. Even male cats can suddenly change, including the ones who, just a few weeks earlier, acted as if the entire apartment and every human inside it existed purely for their personal comfort. After a baby arrives, some of us suddenly start warming the baby with our bodies, spending hours near the crib, or carefully watching anyone who gets too close to this tiny screaming creature. Some cats begin staring at guests with so much suspicion that it almost looks like they've personally appointed themselves head of security for the baby. And sometimes it becomes almost ridiculous. A cat that spent years looking mildly disappointed in humanity suddenly sits next to the baby with the expression of a strict, exhausted parent. And the most fascinating part is that some cats really can start reacting to human babies almost the same way they would react to their own kittens. The sounds, the smell of milk, the helplessness, and the constant attention from the entire family trigger very strong caregiving instincts in some cats, which is one of the reasons cat behavior is often far more emotional, complex, and aware than people usually think. But sometimes our level of concern for the baby goes even further. Some of us become so involved that we start acting as if absolutely nobody in the house can manage this situation properly without our supervision. We may follow the parents whenever they carry the baby into another room, carefully monitor everything happening around the infant, or suddenly become nervous if someone speaks too loudly near the baby. And some cats become so intensely focused on everything surrounding the child that they start looking less like pets and more like tiny furry bodyguards, which becomes especially funny when the same cat that used to run from the vacuum cleaner suddenly behaves like the most responsible adult in the entire house. But not all of us react to a new baby with that level of devotion. For some cats, it feels like the entire world has suddenly been turned upside down without anyone bothering to explain why. And let's be honest, we are absolutely capable of being selfish. Just yesterday, the entire family's attention belonged to us. And today, a tiny, loudly meowing human suddenly appears, and the whole house immediately starts revolving around it. And sometimes, the way cats behave in this situation looks remarkably similar to older children suddenly being told they now have a younger sibling. Some of us begin demanding attention exactly when the parents are busy with the baby. We lie on baby clothes, strollers, or cribs as if trying to remind everyone, "Just so we're clear, I still live here too." And some cats become so dramatically offended that their humans start feeling like they're living with a very fluffy teenager going through a personality crisis. And the most interesting part is that this is not always jealousy in the human sense. Most of the time, the cat is simply trying to feel stable again in a world that suddenly changed completely. But there are also cats who react to a new baby in a completely different way. No caregiving, no desire to participate in any of this. And ideally, all this noise should be happening somewhere very far away from them, because all of us have different temperaments. Some cats immediately switch into protect the baby mode, while others prefer to handle the stress, noise, and completely changed atmosphere in the most cat-like way possible, by pretending the entire situation simply does not exist. Some of us start dramatically leaving the room every time the baby cries, avoiding the nursery, or watching everything unfold with the expression of a deeply exhausted British aristocrat who has suddenly been forced to live inside a daycare center. And from the outside, it can look almost a little hurtful, especially for humans who had already imagined a touching friendship between their cat and child. But feline indifference does not always mean actual indifference. Most of the time, it is simply an attempt to preserve some sense of calm and control in a world that suddenly became far too loud. And when another baby appears in the family, cat behavior sometimes becomes even more unpredictable. Because very often, we suddenly choose one specific child as our favorite. And for humans, the logic behind that choice usually remains a complete mystery. Sometimes a cat becomes especially attached to the child it grew up alongside while it was still a kitten itself. And sometimes the exact opposite happens. Some cats genuinely begin acting as if they were personally responsible for raising that child and are now simply continuing to supervise their already grown-up firstborn. But when a new baby arrives, some cats suddenly appoint themselves all over again as the fluffy nanny for a brand new official object of feline supervision. And sometimes only one specific child is allowed to get away with absolutely everything. Carrying the cat around, putting it into toy strollers, dressing it in ridiculous outfits, or enthusiastically petting it the wrong way despite clearly having no idea how cats actually work. While any adult, and usually the other children too, would most likely have been slapped for that behavior a very long time ago. But perhaps the moments that unsettle people the most are the times when cats seem to sense that something is wrong with the child before the parents do. Sometimes, some of us suddenly become unusually anxious around a baby, refusing to leave the crib, coming back to check on the child every few minutes, or becoming visibly nervous for no obvious reason. And sometimes, cats begin watching children especially closely in the exact moments when they are about to climb somewhere dangerous, fall, hit themselves, or do something that simply feels unsafe to us. And from the outside, it can look almost unsettlingly mysterious. Especially when, later on, it turns out the child really was getting sick, feeling unwell, or behaving differently long before the adults notice anything unusual. And no, it is not magic. Cats are simply far more sensitive to smells, body temperature, breathing, movement, emotional tension, and subtle changes in human behavior than most people realize. We notice far too many tiny details, even when we try very hard to pretend we do not care about anything at all. And still, not every cat handles these changes easily. For some of us, the arrival of a baby really can feel stressful, confusing, and overwhelming. Sometimes that stress shows itself through irritability, strange behavior, sudden territorial habits, or moments that humans often mistake for spite or jealousy. But most of the time, cats are not trying to punish the child. We are simply trying to understand how to feel safe again in a world that suddenly changed overnight. And maybe that is what makes all of this so fascinating. Because no matter how differently cats react to children, with protectiveness, jealousy, indifference, anxiety, or overwhelming attachment, it is still incredible how deeply animals can respond to small, helpless human beings. Especially when some cats genuinely seem to treat human babies almost like their own kittens. And moments like that remind people of something they often forget. Animals are far more emotionally aware, sensitive, and complex than humans usually give them credit for. Sometimes they are not just reacting on instinct. Sometimes it genuinely feels like they are trying to understand, protect, comfort, and care in their own strange little feline way. Thank you for watching. If you have children, we would love to know how your cats reacted when they first met them. Did your cat become protective, jealous, completely indifferent, or maybe suspiciously overqualified as a tiny furry babysitter? And if you are planning to have children someday, tell us honestly, which type of cat reaction would scare you the most? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more strange, fascinating, and surprisingly emotional things cats do that most people completely misunderstand.